Now, the difference in between a threat and a risk is the threat is the looming energy that is heading towards you. What is the risk? What's the difference? You have a fist swinging at your head at a speed that you know is going to make impact. Do you have a weak jaw? That is your risk. Is that punch going to knock you out? That is your risk. That's the difference. Threats, risks. What is your debt? What's your liquidity? What's your asset structure? These are your risks. These are yours. They don't belong to me, but they need to be addressed. This is your risk. The dollar, bang. The supply chain, bang. Lack of energy, lack of being able to get stuff for a long time. What's your debt? What's your asset structure? What do you have? Food. What do you have? What are your medical conditions? I tell you what, I don't want for any of us to be lost. We need each other. We are a society that values life like none other in the world. The Saudis, when I was, the Arabs, when I was in the desert, they would do public executions every few days or so. You never knew, they didn't announce it. But the way that it worked was they would drive a couple of government vans into an intersection, and you don't announce it because it shuts down traffic and makes a problem. But you have to, that's their interpretation of making it public. They put it in the middle of the intersection, they spread out some plastic, they read the charges, cut the guy's head off. Poke him in the back with the sword, cut his head off. In the process of that happening, they like, if there are Americans present, they like to push them up the front, so that you can see how superior their justice system is. They are not a society, nor, I would argue to say, almost anyone, including Europe, does not have the same value on life that we do. It is not reasonable to me that any of you should lose your life in this situation that we're in. What are your medical conditions? Fuel. The psychological effects, shock and awe. That is a debilitating sucker, I tell you what. When stuff happens, a good 30 to 80% of people's energy is wasted by, oh my God! They freeze in place. And they go through all of this entire stress rhythm in order to snap back, and they just lost those critical hours, critical moments to pull it together and do what they planned on doing. Oh yeah, I didn't plan on doing anything. Darn it. Well, you're going to be privy. You're going to see it with your own eyes, the shock and awe effect. You're going to see people sitting on a street corner, talking to themselves. You're going to see it. You need to have, you only fight as hard as you train. You fight half as hard as you train. You have to have what you're going to do squarely put together. Look, I start with survival because it's a you skill. Survival, even in a group, is an individual skill. It is not a group skill. It's not. It's a group dynamic because every one of you relies on the other one to do their part. Any of you drags, it's like that old Roman torture, you know, they took a murderer and they had tied a dead body to him, and they had to drag around a dead body and decompose along with him. That's what happens in survival. If you're not all present and active, you're dragging somebody, they're killing you at the same time. They're decomposing you with their unwillingness or inability to act, respond. Survival is an individual skill. So you must start with you. You have no idea how many people I've seen. Matter of fact, I've even been shocked just recently. A sheriff's deputy, friend of, he's not a friend anymore. He's really an acquaintance, but I really love law enforcement and hanging out with those boys. They're the best. And he's been storing up and getting prepared and stuff like that. But I noticed he's a little bit unbalanced. He's got a lot of guns and ammo. And I just asked him about it. And this is a sheriff, sworn officer of the law. Goes to church every Sunday. Yeah, he'll be one of the hunters. He'll be a predator. That's what he told me. Yeah, I'll just take him to someone else. Mm-hmm. The stress will bring out the darkness in you. If you have unanswered questions inside of you, this emptiness, that is the incubator for evil. And it will express itself. Because stress will bring it all out. Fear is, if you don't have that life, something animating inside of you, a purpose, a drive, something else is coming there. Something else is going to fill that space. Your neighbor in the church, government bias. You know, we've got places like Buncombe County. Whew, that's a reality, government bias. How do they feel about the situation? How do they feel about you? I think you're largely okay in the far west. I've done some pretty good analyses here. I don't know your sheriff. I don't. Maybe you guys know something I don't. Oh boy. Because I tell you what, that's the guy that can make all the difference in the world. I'm telling you, in the world of 50-50, he's the 1%. That makes it, wow, we're okay, or holy smokes, he's the guy. He's it. Gang and radical presence. I don't know what you have here. If we're in Madison County, I'd say you have a real problem. Here, I don't know. I don't know what you have. How many meth labs you have? Do you have MS-13 presence? Western North Carolina is known in the criminal circles as being a sort of what Miami used to be. Miami used to be the place that gangsters would hang out, have a life. They're not allowed to go shooting up street corners. The gangsters would take care of each other. They would self-police because this is untouchable ground. You're not supposed to act the fool in Miami. It's where you're having a good time. It's where gangsters can shake each other's hand and have a good time. They'll go back to fighting later. That's what Western North Carolina has become in terms of south of the border gang activity. They come here, they store large amounts of cash, large amount of drugs, materials, weapons, and they are quiet. They're not allowed to do anything. Not here. Matter of fact, about 6 months ago, and this is very troubling. I live in Biltmore Forest in Asheville, South Asheville, and there was an internationally wanted terrorist captured about 3 blocks from my house. Yemen. He was Yemenis. The only reason why he was caught is because he was looking at his directions and he bumped the curb when a Biltmore Forest PD officer was right behind him. It's the only reason why they caught him. He had been in the country for about 3 or 4 months and made his way across the border, and he was making it to his safe house, which was in Buncombe County. Where you sit and sleep. It's a no, it's off limits. Not allowed. They themselves will hunt you down if you act a fool, if you make yourself known. If a reporter catches wind of you, they'll take care of you. They'll bury you someplace. So you're in one of those areas that houses an elite core of criminals. What is your resource depth? The conditions and your transportation grid. I've gone through a lot of this for your area, and you've got a real unique transportation grid. You've got none. Yeah. You've also got some other really unique problems, and your problems are going to be zeroed down to just a tiny handful of incredibly debilitating things, but just a handful of them.